Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Legal Services Commission and a webinar today. We're delivering this webinar as part of SA Law Week 2025, and we're therefore going green for a change on our website. I'm Christopher Stone, and I'm a team leader in the Legal Information and Advice Division of the Legal Services Commission. Law Week is an annual opportunity for those in our industry and our profession to increase awareness of the services that we provide for the community and the various pathways for legal assistance when an issue arises. I'll get into discussing one of the main pathways in just a minute, but first I'd like to acknowledge that we are hosting this webinar and I'm speaking to you today on the lands of the Kaurna people. I acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various land on which you are all joining us today, and I extend my respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who may be participating in this webinar. So some housekeeping matters to start with. Please use the chat function for any questions today about our services that I'll be describing to you, or the ways in which you can access legal help, and I'll try to get to those questions at the end of the presentation. I won't, unfortunately, be able to answer any queries that relate to specific legal issues that you might have, or personal legal issues that may not be appropriate in this context. The purpose of this presentation is to help you understand where you can go, or the pathway towards having those questions answered. In addition, if there's any technical problems, again, please use the chat function to let us know about those issues, and the technical people supporting me will try and deal with those. So let's get into it. Legal problems can arise from many aspects of our lives, including our access to education, employment, health, housing, and also in relation to family relationships. And legal problems, of course, can have a significant impact on people's social and economic well-being, and that often intersects with non-legal problems. We also know that people facing disadvantage more frequently come into contact with the justice system. Now, on the slide on the screen at the moment, you can see that Legal Services offers a range of services across a wide range of legal problem types, from various resources and publications to our representation services. So as you can see, on the top left of the screen, free legal information and advice is available from Legal Services, and I'll be talking to you about that in particular. We have resources and publications available on our website. We have specialist domestic and family violence legal services. We have a division specialising in aspects of civil law. There's a division that, or divisions, I should say, that specialise and give representation in relation to both criminal law and family law. We have duty lawyers in the criminal magistrates courts, and more recently in the civil jurisdiction of the Adelaide Magistrates Court. We can provide legal aid for ongoing representation in appropriate matters, and we also have a community legal education program. So today I'll be giving you an overview of our key services. I've just summarised those, I suppose. But in particular, I'll be talking about our free legal information and advice service, which is the entry point to the organisation for many people. If somebody in South Australia is experiencing a legal problem and doesn't know where to start, we recommend the first point of call being the legal helpline. And as you can see on the screen, the number is 1300 366 424. That legal helpline operates Monday to Friday between 9 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. I want to stress that with our advice services generally, and certainly with the legal helpline, No eligibility criteria is attached to this service. Anybody can pick up the phone and give us a call. So you don't need to qualify for legal aid to access advice and assistance in this way. You just need to have a legal problem that is in South Australia. Either you're in South Australia or the legal problem is in South Australia. It's a centralised point of contact, I suppose, for our organisation. All other services that we can provide can be accessed from the helpline. And in this way, the helpline can work like a triage in a hospital. It's about identifying what the legal issue is, what information you need, and whether we can resolve your concern in the context of a telephone call, or whether there's other ways we can assist. One thing I would like to make clear is that the people answering the calls on our legal helpline are qualified lawyers. This is different to some legal aid organisations in other states where you don't necessarily speak to a lawyer straight away, but that is the case with us. The wait times are relatively short, certainly compared to some agencies and other organisations that you might want to contact from time to time. You do also have the opportunity, however, if there is for some reason a wait time, you can request a callback with the system that we have, and that will keep your place in the queue if there is a queue, and you'll receive a callback from one of the lawyers on our legal helpline. As I say, it's often the first point of contact, so often it will be preliminary information and advice. Where appropriate, referrals can be made, and where appropriate, it can be next step can be arranged an appointment in our office. The focus, though, is on early intervention to prevent escalation of the legal problem wherever possible. So moving on from there to issues of accessibility, those who require the assistance of an interpreter can contact us by first calling the National Telephone Interpreting Service, or TIS for short. For an interpreter, that's 131450, and then asking to be put through to our advice line on the number on the previous slide. Similarly, those who have a hearing or a speech impairment can contact us through the National Relay Service. So the Legal Information and Advice Division, of which I'm a part, provides information and advice about a very wide variety of legal topics. And on the screen, you'll see dot points listing various legal areas. There are areas that we perhaps more commonly give advice and information about than others. I would sum those up perhaps as saying we give a lot of information and advice to people who may be in trouble with the police, people dealing with money problems or with fines. We give a lot of advice in relation to housing issues, including tenancy in particular. We give advice to people who are going to court for one reason or another. We give advice about family law issues, about disputes involving relationships, relationship breakdowns, and whether that involves disputes over children or disputes over money and property. Sometimes the advice about relationships does deal with questions of violence or abuse. We also give advice to people who have experienced accidents, in particular car accidents on the road, and people who may be having problems or issues with insurance companies. We can give advice about Centrelink, about your entitlement to Centrelink support, or disputes with Centrelink and how to deal with those, about entitlements. Employment often comes up as an issue as well, about people's rights in the workplace, perhaps also dealing with issues of unfair dismissal and also workers' compensation. Questions of neighbour disputes is a frequent topic that comes up in our service. In particular, disputes between neighbours relating to fences, in relation to trees, in relation to boundary disputes, noise issues, and the like. And finally, I'll just mention the issue of making decisions and forward planning, issues such as powers of attorney and advance care directives. We give advice about what they are, what they can achieve, and also we frequently give advice where there may be disputes concerning those documents. So as you can see, it's a pretty wide-ranging field that we give advice in relation to. There are, however, some areas where we are not set up to assist. Certain areas of law are beyond the scope of our advice program. So commercial and tax law, for example, is an area that we don't generally give advice in. Issues such as financial investments, commercial contracts or leases, and the like, including partnership disputes, business disputes, and the like. We're not set up to give advice about patents and copyright disputes. Defamation claims are a complicated area of law, and we might give some very basic advice about what defamation is, but that's an area that, for detailed advice, a private lawyer would be needed. Complaints about the conduct of other lawyers is a tricky area, and we generally aren't able to give advice of any detail in that regard. Similarly, drafting consent orders, for instance, in the family court, or contractual agreements is not an area that we can assist with. And finally, on this list, drafting wills is mentioned. We can certainly give general advice about wills, what a will is, why wills are necessary, what the process is in terms of dealing with wills once somebody has passed away. We do not, however, draft wills for people. Also, it's important to note that we are not able, for professional reasons, to either give a second opinion or give advice where a person has already engaged another lawyer. As lawyers, we're professionally unable to provide advice in those circumstances. So if you do wish to ring the legal helpline and contact us for advice and information, what are the first steps? Well, firstly, we need to identify what your issue is. So during your advice call, the lawyer that takes your call would be wanting and would be asking questions perhaps to identify in the first instance what is your legal issue. And perhaps in some situations it might be identified that it's not a legal issue. We may therefore make a suggestion about where the issue can be dealt with. Once we've identified a legal issue, we may provide you with some guidance as to what your options are. We might be able to give you some indication about the next steps. Could or should you attempt to resolve a legal dispute, for instance, whether certain applications to either a court or to a tribunal might be needed or warranted. Do you, for instance, need to make, or might you be able to make, an application for a grant of legal aid? Those are all things that we may be discussing with you in that initial telephone call. If your issue is outside the scope of our service, then we'll always do our best to try and refer you to the most appropriate service, whether that is a community legal centre, for example, or another organisation, perhaps a specialist service that might exist. In some cases, we'll quickly identify that your issue warrants more in-depth advice, which is advice that we may be able to provide, in which case we would then suggest to you that we arrange an appointment. That can be done in our office in person, or we can arrange appointments that are conducted over the telephone. There are other ways that you may be able to interact with us to obtain legal information and possibly advice as well. Our legal chat facility, for example, can be found on our website. It's an online text service that gives legal information, and that can be done, as I say, through the website and is accessible via your computer at home, via a tablet, or via your mobile phone. It's accessed on our website, and as you can see on the slide, there's a legal chat button or icon in the bottom right-hand corner of our website. It's in blue and it says legal chat. If you click on that, then you can access the legal chat facility, which, like our legal helpline, is staffed by lawyers who can respond to your queries. I mentioned a moment ago advice appointments. I want to emphasise again that these appointments are available to members of the public generally. There is no income or asset test. As part of our advice program, it is not necessary to get a grant of legal aid in order to access the advice. We can provide face-to-face appointments at all of our offices. That's our Central Adelaide office in the CBD of Adelaide. We also have regional Adelaide offices, or metropolitan Adelaide offices, I should say, Elizabeth, Noarlunga, Port Adelaide, and also we have offices in Port Augusta and Whyalla. We operate outreach services at Mount Barker and Murray Bridge, and we have lawyers attending Mount Barker once a week, 1 day a week, I should say, and Murray Bridge 1 day a week. And again, appointments can be arranged in those localities. In Whyalla and Port Augusta, we can arrange appointments, but we have also been arranging drop-in sessions in those locations. So in Whyalla and Port Augusta, when the drop-in sessions take place, it's not necessary to book ahead for an appointment. Where necessary, we can arrange and pay for interpreters. So we are quite accustomed to dealing with people who, for whom English is not their first language, and we arrange professional interpreters to assist us in those circumstances. If you do arrange an appointment for legal advice, I'm sure you'll be told by our team when you're talking to them on the telephone what you need to bring along. But I'll say now, to get the most from your appointment, bring along documents that relate to your legal issue. So, for instance, if there have been any court orders made, if you've received a summons to attend court, or if you've been served with what is an application by someone, an application to the court for certain orders, bring those along. If there are any other relevant documents that relate to the legal issue, then we need to see that. So, for instance, if you have signed a contract or an agreement of some sort, which might mean that you have certain obligations you need advice about, or which has resulted in you owing money to someone, we need to see that documentation. If there's been correspondence, letters or emails with another party that are relevant to the issue you're seeking advice about, it would be helpful for us to see those as well. So the more prepared you are for an appointment, the more advice that we may be able to give you at that appointment. So once an appointment takes place, some advice will be provided. And after that advice, it is possible for us to provide some further assistance in appropriate cases. It may be possible for us, for example, for us to help you prepare a letter or help you draft a letter to the party that you may be in dispute with. In circumstances where people are going to the magistrates' court because they've been charged with an offence, we're talking usually about minor offences, and you're intending to go to court and plead guilty. We can give you advice about the process, about what's involved in a guilty plea. If assistance is needed, we have and we can provide assistance in relation to putting something in writing for a guilty plea, which can then be handed up to the magistrate. We have at times been able to assist people with some negotiations with police prosecution in relation to charges in minor criminal matters. We've also been able to, and we can provide some general advice and also some general assistance in documents such as an enduring power of attorney or an advanced care directive. And finally, at times we have been able to assist people with liaising with relevant stakeholders or agencies, perhaps a government agency or department that is needing some communication in relation to the issue. Another way that we can interact with members of the public is at the Adelaide Magistrates Court. We have a legal advice clinic that operates in the Adelaide Magistrates Court on Victoria Square, and we can assist people who are unrepresented in the civil jurisdiction. Generally speaking, it's civil. And so people often will need advice about the court process, advice about the relevant forms they need to lodge. And these issues, the forms might relate to disputes about neighbours. They might relate to situations where intervention orders have been made in the context of family violence. It might even be in relation to a minor criminal or traffic matter, and we can help in relation to that. And there are some occasions where we can provide assistance with documentation in minor civil claims in the Magistrates Court. So that's the Magistrates Court Legal Advice Clinic. It operates in the mornings in the Adelaide Magistrates Court and operates from about 10 o'clock until lunchtime each day of the week. One of our lawyers from our Legal Information and Advice Division is over at the court to assist. We also do have the ability to provide advice to people who are in prison. We can advise those in custody on general areas of law along the lines that I've indicated before, but we can also give them advice on decisions and processes involving the Department for Correctional Services. It's correctional services that operate our prisons, and sometimes those people who are in prison do need some guidance and some advice on how they may be able to question decisions made and what those processes are. We can provide advice to people who are in prison on claims that are being made for victims of crime compensation. That is, people who have suffered injury, for example, as a result of the crimes for which those in prison have been charged. It's not unusual also to provide advice to people in prison on family law related issues. And we can also provide practical assistance in relation to applying for legal aid. So that's something to be aware of. If you have any contact with people who may be in prison or the families of those who may be in prison, we can provide advice in that context as well. Moving on beyond advice and in relation to applying for a grant of legal aid. Members of the public are able to make applications for legal aid by accessing our online portal, generally speaking, we encourage people to apply using our website and the online portal. The benefit of using this portal is that you have the option of creating an account that will enable you to track your application, update financial details if necessary, and see the course of your application. You don't have to create an account. It's not absolutely necessary. You can log on as a guest and complete an application. But as I say, if you create an account, you can add information and track the course of your application. If people have trouble accessing the portal, it is still possible to complete and then lodge a paper legal aid application. And that can be downloaded and printed from our website, and it can be lodged at one of our offices that I mentioned earlier, or it can be sent via email to our office, and the email address is on the screen there. The hard copy application forms, apart from being available from the website, can be picked up at our offices. They can also be accessed at courts. Private law firms who do legal aid work will usually have copies of our legal aid application form, and community legal centres, I believe, would have copies as well. If you're doing it via the portal, then there will be prompts in relation to any additional paperwork that you need to submit with your application. But if you're doing the legal aid application via the hard copy, I'd encourage everybody to read the information on the inside of the cover of the application form, because that tells you what else needs to be lodged with the application. You can submit the physical application at one of our offices. As I say, you can hand it in to reception staff and it will go into the system, or it can be emailed via the email address on the screen. When you're applying for legal aid, it is possible to nominate a solicitor that you want to handle your matter, and assuming your solicitor or the nominated solicitor is on a panel with legal services, then it would be granted. Or you can simply allow us to find the lawyer who is appropriate for you. Well, that's brought me just about to the end of the session, but I do have time for questions. So if there's any questions flowing from the general information I've provided today, I'm more than happy to take those now. If you're wanting to type questions into the chat facility online, I'd be happy to deal with them. I do note that a link has been placed in the chat column about applying for legal aid, and I think that might be the link for the download of the form that I was mentioning. I can see that there is a question being typed, so we'll keep going. I should mention that this session has been recorded, and it will be available for access subsequently via Legal Services YouTube channel. So it can be viewed again if you'd like to hear from that. And Karen has asked, what is the website address, please? So that is www.lsc.sa.gov.au. Oh, I'm just making sure I got that right, but I'll say that again, www.lsc, that stands for Legal Services Commission, .gov, that's gov.sa.au. Yeah, I got that correct, I'm glad to say. I don't think I can see any further questions coming through right now, so thank you for your attendance on this webinar today. I hope this general information has been of assistance to you. And being Law Week, we do encourage you to have a look at our website and follow the links, and you'll find the various activities that are taking place during Law Week. There may still be some left you can participate in. So thank you for your attendance today, and if you do have queries about assistance we can give, you can always ring us on that number 1300 366 424.